Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a special edition of Oxnard Live. I'm your host, Daniel Chavez Jr. As we all been hearing over the past couple of months, schools are returning back to in person. But what does that mean for the largest elementary school district in Ventura County? How are they taking steps to protect students, protect staff, protect the community? And what does it mean about Governor Newsom's June 15th reopening of the state of California? And what does the school year 2021-22 look like? Joining me tonight is the superintendent of the Oxnard Elementary School District, Dr. Aguilera-Fort.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome, Dr. Aguilera-Fort. I appreciate you taking the time. I know after a long week of work, this is probably the last thing you want to do on a Friday, but I appreciate you taking the time to join us to talk about the Oxnard School District and the procedures in order to keep our families safe, our community safe, and what it looks like for the next school year. So I appreciate you taking the time. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
So I want to, before we get into the discussion about in person, for our viewers, those that may not know exactly who you are, please give us a little introduction, when you came to the Oxnard School District, where you grew up, just a little quick introduction of yourself.
Thank you again. It's a pleasure to be here, really. Even though Friday evening, I'm still in my office. So Karling Aguilera-Fort, I am originally born and raised in Venezuela. And over there, all my educational career, even I became a teacher in Venezuela, a special ed teacher. Was invited 25 years ago to teach in San Francisco Unified School District as a special ed teacher for bilingual settings. They needed at that moment teachers who could teach in Spanish and make sure that the kids were not identified as a special ed just because of language. So it was a 1-year project, and it became a 2-3 years, and here I am 25 years later. Most of my career in the US has been in San Francisco Unified School District, from a special ed teacher to assistant principal, assistant superintendent, and then became superintendent in LA County, and then came to Oxnard 2 years ago, to be more exact, July 1st, 2019. So I'm finishing my 2nd year. And since then, it has been quite a series of events happening, from the fires to the pandemic. And we are still here, and I am really, really pleased and honored to be working with the Oxnard School District and with the community in Oxnard.
Awesome, welcome again. And I'm pretty sure you probably did not think that fires would impact this community so much, and then throw in on top of that a pandemic that pretty much shut everything down.
It wasn't at all part of what I expected. And it was quite I had to learn as we were figuring out closing schools because of the fires, and then how do we support people that got impacted by the fires, because we had to deal with both.
Yeah.
And we did it. So here we are.
And, you know, I still work. I'm still a working person. And I've always said to people that the way an organization, a company, or agency runs it starts from their leadership. So if it's a smooth transition that they're able to tackle those challenges, and yes, it's a learning as they go, it all is because of the leadership and the team that they have beside them, not behind them, but beside them, because it's a team effort. So clearly you're a good leader. You have a good team beside you in order to support our families here in Oxnard. So
I have an excellent team. I have an excellent team. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Awesome. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. Tonight we'll be talking about the procedures, how it came to the point now that we're offering in-person instruction for our students. But it's also worth noting, and please correct me if I'm wrong, there has always been a small part of in-person instruction for the special ed students. Is that correct?
So we did have not actually in-person learning. We had what we called learning hubs. And the learning hubs were open schools. We opened several schools for our most vulnerable students, meaning students that needed the space, needed the conditions to be learning through distance learning still, using the Zoom and the virtual component. However, their home environment did not allow for that to be as effective as if they were in a school setting. And so we open several of our schools for this group of students. And from the very beginning until we were able to open the schools for in-person learning. So those students had the support of what we call campus assistants, and our after-school program staff were assigned to come in the mornings to work with this group of students. Then the first group that came for in-person learning were our students who have individualized educational plans because they receive educational services, so special educational services.
Awesome. Okay. So, and just for the public, he gave you the full thing, but you might have heard the acronym, the IEP, which is the individual plan. So what were the first steps that needed to be taken for the district to start welcoming students back? Or what process did you take to prepare staff, to prepare students, to prepare the parents for the first day of in-person instruction?
So before we even went to welcoming and inviting families and students into the campuses, we made sure that for months we prepared the schools, the classrooms, meaning organizing desk seating arrangement in the classrooms based on the distance required by the guidelines of the California Department of Public Health and by the Central CDC. And we made sure that we clean up every single classroom. Our team of custodians and ground workers, they were assigned to go school by school so that all the regulations, then it was all the component of ensuring the right equipment for teachers, for staff, and all the cleaning supplies according to the guidelines. So that took several months. Once we did that, also teachers receive a specific training on the different ways of we were going to teach and develop schedules with our team. And in this case, our Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services and her team work very closely with teachers, and all of us work with principals in getting ready for that first day. So once we had that ready, we then started informing families about the schedules. Here are the schedules. Here is how it's going to happen. And we let the families know, here are the measures that we are taking place so that your child will be safe and feel safe when he or she comes to the schools. And we organize from entrance to exit to cones, arrows, every type of signaling required, so the kids will know how to enter, how to leave the school, and parents will know when and how to pick up their kids.
Now, I'm very curious because obviously, when you're dealing with something that nobody's ever dealt with, in this case, the pandemic, nobody's ever dealt with something like this. As we talked in the beginning of the show, we talked about fires fires, that's, something typical that seems to happen in California. So you kind of know what procedures to kind of follow with that. But with the pandemic that has so many constant changes. First, you have one set of rules, then a week later, there may be another set of guidelines, then 2 weeks later, another set of guidelines. So prior to that, when you started to educate the parents after getting the staff up to speed as far as procedures, cleaning procedures for the custodial staff and other classified personnel, getting the teachers up to speed as to what is expected of them, the school district also took it steps further as far as having Zoom webinars, informational videos in order to answer those burning questions that they had. How did that work out? And what were the main concerns that parents were posing out there?
Well, first we tried to inform families via email and robocalls, and then we realized that we were not reaching everyone, and we receive requests from families concerned about what is going on. We want to be informed, and we realized that we needed to adjust immediately to this new way of communicating. So then we started hosting those webinars. I have to tell you that we have from 400 to 500 participants in a one session of seminar. And we did the webinars in both, one in English and one in Spanish, different times, both with translation. And also we had mistake interpretation. So we made sure that we were able to reach the different members and constituencies in our community. They were successful. It took a little, I must confess that we had to go through a process of learning and relearning how to host those webinars and even how to promote them. We thought at some point for the first one that we had reached enough members of the community. Then through Facebook and through emails, I don't know that this is happening. How come are you doing this and we are not informed? So we realized that we needed to revamp our way of connecting with families. And we did that immediately for the second one. Then the second piece of learning was actually families want to know in a more consistent basis. We had a gap of 2 months from one to the other. And the other gap was actually, the first gap was about 3 months. And then parents started asking us, what is going on? So we needed to figure out the frequency, the consistency of the webinars, and in between, what will be the other way of communicating with families? Because we realize also families will come to the webinar, but they also want to have certain consistency in between. So we realize that we will be sending texts. We will be making robocalls, and then we'll host the webinars. All the feedback that we received was very, very positive. As we were hosting webinar for parents, we also did the same with staff, with teachers, who also needed to know. Then the information and the feedback from teachers was, okay, you're talking to parents, when are you going to talk to us? So it took some work to really get the cadence of communication with teachers, principals, teachers, parents. And once we got the cycle, it was different, but it took a little bit of trial and errors to do that. And as of today, I can tell you that the webinars were very appreciated. We haven't had one since the beginning of the reopening of the schools, because now the schools are taking on the communication with families. Now that the kids are back, schools are hosting parent nights via Zoom. Schools are hosting webinars for any event. Schools are hosting informational sessions via Zoom. So now we transfer that series of events and informational sessions to the school, because now it's more localized and the events and the situation will change depending on the school, even though the general theme will be there.
I also know that in the beginning, and I commend you and your staff for taking on that, because I think a lot of us had the struggle of trying to figure out how do we reach the broader spectrum of families and community members and ensure that they are getting the information and that they don't feel lost or left out. I also know that you were putting out, I can't recall if it was weekly or monthly updates that you personally were posting on YouTube for families so that they were aware of what was the ongoing challenges and the things. Are those still occurring, or is it more now at the school level?
Those are also now more at the school level. At the beginning, because our school campuses were closed, we needed to do it from here. And parents really wanted to know what is going on. And so most of the decisions were made centrally in collaboration with our unions and in collaboration with the principals. However, the hub was in our offices. One thing that I must say is our offices close only for a short span of time. We open almost immediately following all the regulations. And then we created schedule for people to come and rotate. So we will not have everyone at the same time. But we wanted to make sure that we were open to the public in certain hours because our families needed that. So at the beginning, I had forgotten how many of these videos we had done and recorded so we could inform families. And they were well received. And we tried to make sure that as things were changing, because that was the other piece, from one week to the other, whatever we thought was accurate a week ago, it changed. And so we had to be up to date and provide that information to families. So we did that. I don't know how many, but we're quite a bit. But now the schools and the school principals are taking care of that piece with staff. I also must highlight the work of our school counselors and our outreach specialists that work with families. They are taking the lead with the school principals of organizing this session for families. So families have the opportunity to connect with them and identify what is it that is going to happen for my child, my school. So now it's more localized at the school level.
That's awesome. Now, with the webinars and your informational videos that were put out in the beginning, are those concerns that parents had in the beginning still concerns that they have now, or have those concerns kind of been put to rest, that they feel confident enough? And obviously there are parents that are confident because of the fact that there are students on campus, but are there still those concerns from the community, from parents?
I would say that yes, we have some. However, the number of concerns related to safety and related to the educational program as well are minimum right now. We do have them, not to the extent in comparison to what we had at the beginning and even in the middle of coming back to in-person learning. Right now, we are still not receiving visitors into the campus because of the guidelines. However, we do our best to communicate with families and letting them know what is going on in the classrooms. So as they know what is going on in the classrooms, they are trusting even more that we are making sure their children are safe. So truly, right now, the concerns still, but the frequency and the number have reduced to very minimum, okay? Because they see it. One thing that I do, I visit schools every week. So there are 1 or 2 days that instead of coming to the office, the first thing that I go is I go to schools and I go to classrooms. I check with parents. Then the other school, I am at the end of the day and I am there during dismissal time and see what is the flow of the buses coming and what is the flow of parents coming in and out. And I can tell you, our families have followed the regulations. And when there are families that, at times they forget, the other parents, they either remind them or they come to us and they tell us, did you see this? It's important to remind parents. So we are constantly reminding people of the measures and what are the appropriate protocols so that they keep that in mind. So we don't have that many concerns as we used to have at the beginning.
That is absolutely awesome. I'm glad to hear that. Now, walk us through a typical day for a student. They are being dropped off at the campus, and we'll pick any campus. Because I'm assuming that the procedures are district-wide. There's nobody is better than the other. Everyone's doing the exact same procedures. So walk us through a typical first day for a student returning back to in person. What are the requirements on their part to come to school? And then what are the steps they take in order to get to their classroom?
Yeah. So one thing that we are asking from the very beginning to every family is to do what we call the soft check of wellness, meaning, is your child showing any symptom, flu-like, COVID-like symptom? Is there any sign of fever? Is there cough? Is any one of those signals? If your child is experiencing that, please make sure to keep your child at home and let us know, okay? And so parents are doing that. And absolutely, there are times when parents forget or they didn't realize that. So I'll explain to you what we have in place at the school level so that we can address that piece. Once the kids are dropped off at the school, there are specific entrances for kids to walk into the school. Kids go directly to their classrooms, and they now know my kinder classroom, my first grade classroom, whatever the classroom is, they go directly to their classroom. Teacher welcomes them. Every desk has what we call a shield, other called sneeze guard, but there is a protection there. CDC doesn't require that. However, we wanted to make sure as a district that we had that additional protection, and kids are able to eat breakfast in the classroom because we wanted to make sure that we had the possibility of providing the meals to our kids. And as you know, breakfast is important. We want the kids to be fed and to be ready to learn. And so our nutrition department organize the breakfast every single day in a package. The kids open, they eat, and then they wrap it up. Then it's picked up, or they can put it in their backpack. Then learning begins. Some teachers are doing what they call simultaneous grouping, meaning there are kids in the classroom and there are kids at home, and they are working with the two groups at once. Most of the teachers are teaching the group in person in the morning, and the rest of the students are being taught in the afternoon at home, while the kids that came to school have assignments to complete when they get home. Every single day, once the kids leave, there is a cleanup of every single classroom, and the product is 360 Clorox, I believe, 360, and every classroom is sprayed. And we let it rest. because that is what the disinfection piece will take, when the disinfection piece will take place. Then the following day, the classroom is ready. CDC guidelines don't require anymore to clean between groups at the middle school level. So we are fine now with one spray, one session of that, let it rest, it kills whatever needs to be killed. We have that one in peace. We are not using yet the play structures, and we will start using now because CDC guidelines now have provided ways of using and allowing kids to play in those playgrounds without major risk. So if my child went to school today, she or he went directly to his classroom through this door, and the exit will be through a specific door as well. Grade levels, there are schools that have. Here is first and second grade. Here is kinder and transitional kinder, TK. And here is fourth and fifth. So every grade level, and if you walk into the school, there are arrows on the floor signaling one way and the other way. So every single school, you will notice the marks on the floor that show what is the path that students need to take to either enter or to leave the school. And so those are very clear, determined. Here's the other piece. If in the classroom we have any child with symptoms, every school has what we call the care room. And those kids are being sent over there. Temperature is taken, families are called, parents are called, and we follow up with the family to see if indeed there are signals of COVID-like, and then parents report to us whether the child had or not. And part of what we do is we tell the families, keep your child at home until you get released by the doctor, until he or she feels better, so until there is no symptom. So we have all these very well delineated for the staff and for the families.
Wow, I feel safe. And I don't even go to the school yet, but
I invite you one day, we can go in and really walk through every single step. I have memorized it because we went through every single iteration and possibility in the scenario before we opened the schools.
That's awesome. And, you know, I commend you for doing that, and your staff for taking these steps in order to protect our communities, you know, our youth, our teachers and other staff members. I want to ask in regards, and I understand there are two different districts. The Oxnard Union High School District, they have a lot less number of schools versus the Oxnard Elementary School District, two separate districts. They have the thermal scanners for students as they enter, they check them. Is the Oxnard School District have something like that, or taking some other approach for a temperature check, or is it only when a student starts displaying some type of symptoms?
It's only when the student is displaying certain type of symptoms. And truly, this is based on the guidelines from CDC. So we check at some point, if had we opened our schools before we did, perhaps that could have been one of the requirements. In one thing that we have been doing from the very beginning, today included, is checking every single time with the Ventura County Public Health Department. And so that's the partnership, I cannot stress that enough, with the Ventura County Public Health Department has been amazing. They have guided us throughout every single step. And temperature taken for students is one of the pieces that they are not recommending as a must. So we decided that that piece we wouldn't go for. That's why we are asking families. Some may argue not all the families remember to do it. So what we did, we provided thermometers to every single family that requested. Every single school, we send the information through our outreach specialist, and every single school had a set of digital thermometers so that the families could get them and use at home. So we did other mitigation factors because in our sites, we were not taking every single student temperature taken. And remember this in terms of high school students and our students, not all of the students at the high school are going to school. And it is really a handful of students that go into a classroom, 2 or 3, at the most 10. So you can have, there is a difference, not a rationale why. However, I want also to highlight that 20 per classroom or 19, which is the maximum that we have right now per classroom, versus 2, there is a difference there in terms of having someone taking temperature and registering, because the other piece is it's not just walking by and getting it. We have to register and document every single piece once we do it. So,
well, I appreciate that information because obviously I did not know that. So I appreciate you enlightening me on that. And I commend you again for sending out those digital thermometers, because it is important to, for parents to be able to do that. And I used to work for a school district. I did it for 7 years, the Wainini Elementary School District.
okay.
I enjoyed my time. Wasn't a teacher, I was a para, so I worked in the classrooms, worked out on campus. I did everything. And I enjoyed my time. And I do miss working in the schools. It was so much easier dealing with children versus dealing with adults. But that's another story. But there used to be these paper thermometers that, you would put on your head.
The scanning one.
Are those still a thing, or are those long gone? I hope they're gone, because they were just.
I haven't seen those in several years. So right now, truly, and here's one piece. We receive donations of thermometers as well. So the district purchased some, and then we were lucky enough that we received donations. And so every single time we were able to gather them, and truly every single school, still today, we have some just in case there are families that need that.
Awesome. Now, I want to ask, in the event that one of the school sites, we're not singling a school site, any school site within the district, if there was a positive case, what is the district response to that after they've been notified by the family that, like, hey, look, there has been a positive case in the household? What is the district's response to that?
So once we are informed, the parents say, my child has tested positive for COVID, there are 3 steps. Number 1, we inform the teacher. Number 2, we inform the families in this classroom. And we connect with CDC immediately, with the Ventura County Public Health Department. We provide the names if they, just to double check that indeed the case is already in the database of the county. And also we follow up with them. Is this a class that needs to be closed or not, based on when the child was the last time in the school? How long has passed since the child was diagnosed or tested positive until today? And there is a clear guideline about the 10-day rule. So if we had a case that we learned 10 days later, all the exposure time, all the different steps that the virus takes are already gone through. Still, we inform the teacher. We make sure that the kids have, we are watching for any symptom. We do follow up. However, based on the guidelines, After 10 days, if we don't have the cases, most likely you will not have them. But we inform families, we inform staff, and we work with CDC, with the Ventura County Public Health Department, so that we can follow up with the steps. And even the guidelines for quarantine have changed. If people are vaccinated, kids are not, but the adults are vaccinated. We just got the newest regulation yesterday from California employees, the OSHA component, and we don't need anymore to put any adult in quarantine if they have been vaccinated. So a week ago, we had to put that employee on a 10-day quarantine. A week later, you don't need to do that. So again, even how the processes and guidelines evolve, we have to be evolving with them as well.
I want to actually step back one because I forgot to ask this. Mask. While on campus, who's required to have it? When are they required to have it? Staff, students, is it all day thing? What is the procedure?
Everyone is required to wear the mask. Unless a student in a special education program with severe needs and some medical conditions, if that is exempt by medical conditions that proven, we will make those exceptions according to the law. The rest, every single member of that school community must wear the mask. Here is one caveat. Since 2 weeks ago, in open spaces, masks are not required. Still, the district requires for staff, students to wear the mask. And of course, some of the kids will try to just lower down the mask, and we go, hey, just make sure, up your nose too. So we try to do that, but everyone is required to wear the mask. So there's no exception. Like, you enter into campus, you're wearing your mask. I go to the school site and I do take my temperature as I walk into the school as the adult. I register, I wear my mask. I don't go, no one is allowed actually to enter without the mask.
I want to ask you about that because for staff, I'm pretty sure the procedures are a little bit different. So if you can touch on it just real quick, the procedures that staff have to take when entering campus.
So all the staff members are required, they have two possibilities of taking temperature and signing immediately after taking temperature, but every single member is required to make sure that they have either on-site or check temperature before they come to site, okay? Then every entrance of the school has what I call the tower of hand sanitizer. And so as soon as you walk in, you see the tower there and you pump it up and you just sanitize your hands. Every single staff member is required to do that. And if they are with kids, they are required to wear the mask. Kids leave. If they are inside their classrooms with no other adult, they can take their mask off. Like right now in my office, I'm not wearing my mask. We don't have any other adult. However, if an adult wants to come, anyone wants to come, I will wear my mask immediately. I don't know if you have seen, we have now our board meetings in person, even with few access to other people from the outside. Every board member and all of us are wearing our mask during our board meetings, even though we have the dividers, all the protections, but it's a closed space. So we are wearing masks during our board meetings as well. So we try even to model our board, our cabinet members, our staff, do the best that we can to model that this is the way how we do it.
Good to know. Um, Real quick, we all heard Governor Newsom make the announcement that June 15, California is supposed to completely open up. Of course, we all know that schools in mid-June, they're already on summer break. So what does the next school year look like? What happens to the Oxnard School District and to our communities? And I get it, as you mentioned multiple times, and I said it also, rules are constantly changing, guidelines are constantly changing. You just, like you mentioned, you just received guidelines just yesterday or earlier today. So in guidelines and in terms of right now of everything reopening, but you're still required the mask, what does the next school year look like? Is it going to be a full reopening, bringing all the students back? Or is it still going to be the hybrid option that is currently in place?
Right now, based on guidelines from the California Department of Education, we are offering everyone coming back. So they have not contemplated yet the possibility of a hybrid model for next school year. So we are planning as if we are coming completely in person, as we are coming full blown with as close as possible to what used to be the regular school year, or what people will call the normal, which, normal anymore. It doesn't exist in the way we think. So I call it the regular school year next year. So we are planning to come back completely in person with everyone in our sites, in the classrooms. There will be things that we will be learning during the summer about how to do it, how to adjust, what spaces outside the schools. There are pieces that we don't know yet. However, we are planning to come back completely in person.
Good to know. Thank you for that. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, Oxnard Superintendent, Dr. Karling Aguilera-Fort, I apologize. Superintendent of the Oxnard Elementary School District is joining us tonight. Is there any final comments, any final information that you want to give out to the public at this time?
Number one, I just want to thank you for the opportunity to speak to our community and to let them know that we are here working to serve you, because that is important. And by serving everyone, every family, we serve our kids. Two, we are doing everything that is possible to keep your child safe. We are doing everything possible to ensure learning while observing all these different measures. And even though it hasn't been an easier thing for you, we thank every single family for trusting the school district and for sending their child to our school sites. We understand those who have not feel, they haven't felt like we can send the school yet. We understand and respect that. And I assure you that we are doing everything possible so that at the beginning of next school year, you will feel more comfortable and that you can trust that at the school level, your child will be safe and learning. So thank you for entrusting the education of your child to the Oxnard School District. Our team is ready. I work with an amazing group of people that are ready to serve. Those teachers are excited to welcome the students, and they want to teach your child in person. So welcome back, and hopefully next school year we will be celebrating in a different way than the one that we are celebrating right now.
Awesome. Thank you again for joining me. I do appreciate you taking this opportunity to come speak about the procedures and the steps the district is taking to keep our communities safe, because I think it's very important for the public to understand that steps are being taken. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Karling Aguilera-Fort, Superintendent of the Oxnard Elementary School District. Thank you again. Be sure to join us next week, Thursday, as we speak with the group, the Student for Students Network. This is an amazing group that started to be able to assist students, get them on the right path so that they're able to apply for colleges and grants and so much more information about them. Their team will be joining us next week. We'll be talking to them about the type of programs and the services that they offer to assist those students. This is Oxnard Live, and I'm your host, Daniel Chavez Jr. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Visit our website at oxnardlive.net to view upcoming episodes and past episodes as well, including this interview that is currently on the website. So again, all live and 100%